Hey everyone and welcome back. For today's deep dive, we're diving into a topic that you specifically requested, which is really cool. Tooth regeneration.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and not just like fillings and crowns, we're talking full-on, could you grow a whole new tooth regeneration? So is that even possible? I mean, really?
Well, you sent some really interesting research, and based on what I'm seeing, scientists are getting closer all the time.
Well,
It seems like every day there's something new. And what I find fascinating is all the different ways they're trying to do this.
okay.
Stem cells, 3D printing, even targeting specific genes.
Targeting genes. Okay, now you have to tell me more about that.
Right. So one of the papers you sent was about this protein, USAG1, and get this, it actually prevents tooth growth.
So it's like the stop sign of tooth development.
Exactly. So they figured out a way to block it. And, are you ready for this? They tested it on mice and ferrets.
Wait, ferrets? Like the adorable slinky little weasels? Or are they like walking around with bonus teeth now?
Yeah. And not just any teeth. This research stumbled upon something called third dentition. It's kind of like a hidden set of teeth in mammals.
Hold on, back up. Third dentition. Like beyond baby teeth and adult teeth, there's a third set.
Yeah.
You're messing with me, right?
Nope, it's a real thing. It's super rare in humans, but this research shows it's possible. They even found that targeting USAG1 was way more effective than another pathway called Wnt signaling. They even had some success with mice that had genetic conditions that made them lose teeth.
Wow, okay, my mind is already blown and we're just getting started. So we went from 0 to growing teeth in ferrets real quick.
But how does this even work? Are we talking like injections into the gums?
It's a little more complicated than that, but you actually sent some other research that gets into the nitty-gritty of actually growing the teeth.
Okay.
One study used dental pulp stem cells from dogs, and then they combined that with a 3D printed scaffold.
Stem cells, 3D printing. This is starting to sound like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. I always thought stem cells were more for like growing organs, not teeth. Yeah. They're pretty amazing, actually. They can do so much. In this case, they acted like, I guess, expert builders, promoting the hardening or mineralization of the tooth structure.
So we've got the signal to grow the tooth and the building blocks to make it strong. What about this scaffold you mentioned? Is that like a blueprint for the new tooth?
Think of it more like a temporary framework. They used a 3D printed mix of something called hydroxyapatite, that's a natural mineral found in our teeth, and polylactic acid. That's biodegradable. This basically gives those cells something to attach to and then grow on.
Okay, so did they actually make a whole tooth with this method, a fully functional tooth?
Not a perfect tooth just yet, but it's definitely a huge step in the right direction. But they did hit a bit of a snag. The polylactic acid wasn't breaking down fast enough, which could be a problem for how the new tooth integrates with, the gums and everything.
Right, so it's like building a house on a foundation that's not going to go away. Not exactly ideal. It sounds like there's still a few kinks to work out.
Exactly. And it just goes to show tooth regeneration is more than just making a tooth appear. It's got to actually become a natural part of your mouth. And that actually brings us to another source you shared, that periodontal disease in dogs.
Okay, yeah. What does gum disease in dogs have to do with regenerating human teeth?
It really highlights just how important a healthy foundation is for all of this. I mean, even if we can grow new teeth, it's not going to matter much if the underlying structures are unhealthy. Think about it. You wouldn't build a skyscraper on a crumbling foundation, right?
So it's like we need to make sure our mouths are a tooth-friendly environment, before we even think about growing new ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's something that I think, often gets overlooked, right? We get so caught up in all the excitement of these new technologies, and we kind of forget about the basics.
Right. Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got these potential building blocks, but we haven't talked about what actually, makes a tooth grow in the first place. How does that even work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's this whole intricate dance of cellular signals and genetic cues. It's actually kind of beautiful when you think about it.
Okay, you've got to give me more because I love a good intricate dance analogy. So who are, the main players, the stars of this tooth ballet?
Okay, so your genes, those are like the choreographers. They provide the blueprint for the whole production. And in fact, some of the research you sent actually highlights some of the specific genes that are involved in tooth development.
Oh, wow. So our genes actually determine whether we've got a mouthful of pearly whites or a mouthful of trouble. I guess that makes sense. But how does that tie back to regeneration?
Remember those mice with the missing teeth? Well, they had mutations in a gene called MSX1, but by blocking USAG1, remember that protein, the researchers were basically able to bypass that genetic roadblock, and they actually stimulated new tooth growth. It's like, they went in and edited the choreography to get a different outcome.
Whoa, so they literally rewrote the script.
Ugh.
So in theory, if we could, like, identify the specific genes that are calling the shots for tooth growth, we could potentially manipulate them to regenerate teeth.
Exactly. Now, it's still very early days, but this research really gives us a glimpse into the incredible possibilities of genetic engineering when it comes to, like, the future of dentistry, you know?
Okay, it's a lot to take in. Genes are the choreographers. What about, like, the actual dancers, the ones that are, like, doing the heavy lifting of building a new tooth?
Okay, so think of dentin as the main stage. That's the hard calcified tissue that makes up, like, the bulk of the tooth's structure.
Dentin, the stage is set. What about, like, the rest of the set design?
Okay, well, enamel is like the stunning backdrop. Right. It's the hard, shiny outer layer that protects the tooth. And fun fact, it's actually the hardest substance in the entire human body.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Enamel, the diva of dental tissues. Hard and glamorous. I love it. Okay, but what about the support beams? The stuff that holds it all together?
Well, that's where cementum comes in. It's a specialized tissue that basically anchors the tooth to the jawbone. And of course, we can't forget the periodontal ligament that acts like a shock absorber between the tooth and the bone.
Wow, it's like this, like, perfectly engineered structure.
Yeah.
But how do all these different parts, how do they know to come together at the right time in the right place? It seems like a miracle of coordination.
It's true, and that's where those cellular signals that we talked about earlier, that's where they come in. They act like instructions, telling each cell what to do and when to do it.
Oh, so they're like the director, like shouting cues from the back of the theater, like, okay, Enamel, you're on. Denton, hold that pose.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where stem cells and growth factors, they really kind of steal the show.
Stem cells, the understudies of the body, ready to jump into any role.
Precisely. Stem cells are like those multi-talented dancers that can, like, seamlessly transition from ballet to hip hop to jazz, you know? They have the potential to turn into various cell types, including the ones needed to regenerate teeth.
So we can potentially, like, coax them into becoming the specific cells we need to build a new tooth. Talk about, like, versatile performers.
Exactly. And that's where growth factors come in. They act like choreographers, you know, guiding those stem cells and telling them, okay, you're going to be dentin, you're going to be enamel, and you, my friend, are destined for greatness as cementum.
It's a cellular casting call. I love it. So we've got the blueprint, the dancers, the choreography. What are we missing? How do we actually get this tooth ballet, like, on stage?
That's where the stage itself comes in the scaffold. Remember, we talked about that, how it provides a 3D framework for the cells to attach to and grow on.
Right, like a literal stage for our tooth ballet. Perfect.
Exactly. And it's not just any stage, right? It has to be biocompatible, so it doesn't, you know, clash with the dancers. And it has to be biodegradable, meaning that it gracefully bows out once the performance is over.
So it provides, like, temporary support while the new tooth kind of struts its stuff and then, poof, disappears into thin air. That is impressive.
It is. And the best part, it's actually designed to mimic the natural structure of a tooth, so it, like, guides the cells to organize themselves into the right formations.
So the stage set is actually helping the dancers learn their steps. I love it.
Precisely. And, you know, just like a good theater needs proper lighting and acoustics, the scaffold also needs to be porous to allow for the exchange of nutrients, get rid of waste products, that kind of thing. And, of course, it has to be strong enough to withstand the demands of, well, you know, daily use.
Yeah, no flimsy sets allowed in this production. We're going for a long-running show. But seriously, it's incredible how much detail goes into designing these things.
Oh, yeah. It's really a testament to just how ingenious scientists and engineers are. They're using, like, cutting-edge materials like bioceramics, polymers, even hydrogels, all with this goal of creating the perfect environment for tooth regeneration.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint, the dancers, the choreography, and even the stage. Now, how do we raise the curtain and get this show on the road?
All right, well, that's where things get really, really interesting. It's not quite as simple as just putting all the pieces together and hoping for the best. We need a way to actually, like, kickstart the regeneration process. And that's where stem cell therapy and gene editing really take center stage.
Stem cell therapy, gene editing. Okay, now we're bringing out the big guns. Tell me more.
All right, imagine this. We take stem cells from your own body, maybe from, like, your dental pulp or bone marrow. These cells, they already know your system, right? They speak the language, they know the steps.
So we're basically recruiting some local talent for our grand production.
I love it. Exactly. But here's where it gets really, really cool. We can actually use gene editing to enhance their tooth building potential even further. It's like giving these super talented dancers an extra boost of energy, a little more precision.
They become like super-powered tooth-building machines. Okay, I like where this is going. What happens then?
All right. We carefully place these enhanced stem cells onto our, perfectly designed scaffold and we implant this entire structure right into your jawbone, right where that new tooth is meant to be.
So you're like implanting a tiny tooth factory right into the jaw. That's wild.
It really is. And here's the best part. As those supercharged stem cells get to work, they actually release signals that kind of call upon the surrounding tissues to join the party.
So it's not just the stem cells doing all the heavy lifting. They're actually recruiting a whole team of helpers from within the body.
Exactly. It's like the stem cells are the lead dancers, but they've got this whole ensemble supporting them, making sure every step is flawless.
This is amazing. I had no idea tooth regeneration was such a collaborative effort.
It really is, and that's what makes this whole field so incredibly exciting. It's really bringing together experts from, genetics, stem cell biology, materials science, and of course dentistry to really tackle this challenge from every angle.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. We went from blocking proteins to third dentition to implanting tiny tooth factories. Like, it's all just so incredibly cool. But let's be real for a second. How far off is all of this? Are we talking like months, years, decades? When can I just ditch my retainer and grow a new tooth if I need one?
Okay, so I hate to be the bearer of maybe slightly less exciting news, but it's probably going to be a little bit longer than a few months.
Okay.
As amazing as all of this research is, there are still some pretty big hurdles that we have to kind of overcome.
Like what? Give it to me straight.
Well, for starters, think about the difference in scale. I mean, these studies, they involved mice, ferrets, even dogs. Their teeth are minuscule compared to ours.
Right.
So figuring out how to basically scale these techniques up to a human-sized tooth, that is a massive engineering feat.
So growing a molar for me is a bit more complicated than growing a whole mouthful of teeth for a ferret. Who knew?
Exactly. And then there's the challenge of what we call biomimicry. Our natural teeth, I mean, they're incredibly complex.
Right.
You've got different layers, different densities, even different textures. Trying to create a scaffold that can perfectly replicate all of that, I mean, that's like trying to recreate the Mona Lisa, but with dental materials. It's not easy.
Yeah, talk about a high-pressure art project.
Mm.
And I imagine these, like, super teeth need to be tough enough to withstand, like, years of chewing, coffee, maybe the occasional candy apple. We're not talking about those, like, temporary tattoos you get from a gumball machine, right?
Oh, absolutely not, no. We need these regenerated teeth to be like the real deal. Strong, durable, and like we were talking about, fully integrated with all the surrounding tissue. It's a tall order, but hey, that's what researchers are working towards.
So it's not just about growing any old tooth. It's about growing a tooth that's actually going to last a lifetime. Okay, no pressure, scientists. But this is really amazing stuff.
Yeah. And that's why it's going to take time. We need rigorous testing, probably a few more curtain calls before all this is actually ready for, prime time. But the good news is there are already clinical trials that are underway.
Wait, hold on. Clinical trials? Are you telling me there are people out there right now, like, testing out tooth regeneration?
Oh, yeah.
This is huge.
It is really exciting. One trial, for example, is actually focusing on using stem cells to regenerate not the whole tooth yet, but damaged dental pulp. That's the living tissue inside the tooth.
Oh, wow. So instead of, like, a dreaded root canal, they're trying to just, like, regrow the pulp? That would be amazing.
Exactly. And the really cool thing is that early results from this trial, they're looking really promising. They've actually seen new dentin forming and new blood vessels, which is a really, really big deal.
Wow. So it's not, like, full tooth regeneration just yet, but it's, like, proof of concept. This is incredible. And it sounds like they're, like, exploring other avenues too, right? Like all that gene editing stuff we were geeking out about earlier.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There are trials now that are specifically looking at how to tweak those genetic instructions to, like, really maximize the tooth-forming power of those stem cells. It's, like, all happening as we speak.
Okay, this is all just incredibly exciting. I know you probably can't give me an exact date, but based on everything we've talked about today, like, when do you think that tooth regeneration might actually become a real option for people like me?
Well, if I had a crystal ball that could tell me these things, I would be a very rich person. It is really tough to say for sure, but just given the speed of the research that's happening now and the progress that we're seeing, I think it's pretty reasonable to be optimistic about, say, the next decade or so.
A decade, okay. I can wait a decade for a mouthful of super regenerated teeth,
Hmm.
especially if it means no more filling. Sign me up.
Exactly. And in the meantime, I think the best thing that we can all do is just take really good care of the teeth that we have right now.
Yes.
Brushing, flossing, regular checkups, those are still the golden rules of a healthy smile.
Truer words have never been spoken.
Oh,
Okay, well, I think it's time to wrap up this absolutely incredible deep dive into the future of teeth. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for, geeking out with me on this.
it's been my pleasure, truly.
Before we go, is there, one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that, yes, tooth regeneration has the potential to completely revolutionize dentistry as we know it, but it's not, a magic bullet. Taking care of your oral health, it is still absolutely crucial both now and in the future.
Yes. Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll leave you with this thought. If we're already on the brink of literally regrowing teeth, what other seemingly impossible medical feats might be just around the corner? Keep those imaginations running, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.